Maybe it's about following the way something feels and not always how it looks. Maybe it's about following the way that something feels rather than filming it, looking at it through a screen. If it's in front of you, look at it in real life.
This video is sponsored by Playlist Push, the music promotion service trusted by over 25,000 artists. So today we're going to talk about the musician but also multidisciplinary artist FKA Twigs. When I started to focus in on the interviews here, I realised there were some topics around dealing with distraction, dealing with technology, and also that strange and awkward and worrying for a lot of people buzzword of AI.
I mean, I don't know about everyone here, but technology's starting to give me the ick. You know, but genuinely, like, sometimes I'll just be on my phone and I'll be like, you know, and that's something that even 5 years ago I didn't feel.
Along with FKA Twigs, I want to pull in a few other artists today to help deepen the discussion of the topics that we're looking at. And if you stick around to the end, I want to give a sneak peek into the second round of community artist interviews that I've just started having, which have come out of the free newsletter that I run. This might not bring anything up for you, but for me, you know, I've had certain experiences in my life. And I know that my creative practice is a way that I try to understand or heal, sometimes even heal those experiences. And that's a constant, because life is full of experiences, there's no end point. Then constantly my creative practice is allowing me to do that. That process, does that resonate, or is there anything in your work that you feel does that hit for you at all?
All of it. If you have this outlet, or if you manage to have this outlet, it's a big healer. And I'm looking for that all the time, to process just these things and at least to tell your own perspective.
I enjoy all the work that I do around creative minds, but no bullshit here. It's these direct discussions or interviews with artists and creatives who are watching these videos and are from this community that really are the lifeblood of what I'm pushing forward here. And yeah, at the back end of the video, I want to give a bit of a short cut of some of my favourite parts of these discussions so far. So stick around for that. I think you'll enjoy it. You said in the video you sent me you were releasing, I couldn't find it actually, but a music project called something like, I love the title, it was music to say, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, music to break out my music, songs to break out my music dreams too.
Look, that title hit, man. I liked it. It made me smile, but I also felt it as well. And
yeah,
what's that about? With that said, and before we jump into the issues on distraction, technology and AI, I want to ground this piece all in that basic pillar that I discuss so often on Creative Minds here, which is how so many of the artists and creatives that I look at in these videos discuss their relationship to validation and how their path towards maturity has been about walking towards the kind of freedom and presence that can come from letting go of some of that.
I make music for me, and it's like, that's the way it should be. Honesty in music is primary. It's like the one thing I feel like your lyrics should have is honesty. Even if it's not about you and it's a story, it should be about an experience that is real. It should be coming from a real place at least. There's nothing wrong with writing fictional songs, but if a listener can't relate to it, it's going to be hard for someone to sort of connect with you. And that's what the whole point of releasing music is like to relate with people.
I'm in a place of brutal honesty at the moment, with love and in a gentle and caring way, but I just don't have anything to hide.
Yeah. I can relate to that. I'm also nearing 40, and I think that so much of my life I was trying to be something and for other people, and now I'm in a place where it's just so much easier to actually just be honest and let the chips fall where they fall.
We're going to continue with some themes around social media distraction and, as I say, AI, but I wanted to just pull up that idea of how the interviewer talks about being able to let the chips fall where they may as they become a more mature, creative or artist or just person, to let go a bit and stop gripping so tightly onto others' perceptions or ways that we see we need to control the world around us, which we're probably trying to enact in order to feel more powerful or even more safe perhaps. But I think as a creative, and again, I see this reflected in so many of the interviews that I cover on this channel. The more tight you try to grip, the less good is actually going to come. And that need to control and grip the work or the outcome of that work only begets more anxiety around controlling those outcomes. And actually the peace and the ability to move around with more presence and approach your work with more presence is going to then beget not only better work but more peace in how we feel towards the outcomes of that work. And maybe even we can be prosaic enough to say more peace in general.
What do you use dance for?
To say the things I can't say with words.
How do you feel when you dance?
Hopeful.
I want to continue in this video with looking at the imperative for artists and creatives to deal in the real life, the real world, real relationships. But just before we jump into that, I want to give a quick shout out to the long-term sponsor of this channel and the work that I do here, and that's Playlist Push. As I've said before, the best advert I can give for Playlist Push to this community is that people from this audience have clicked through from these videos and have found success with Playlist Push, getting the music that they make into more ears and to a larger audience that may then connect with it. In short, what the service at Playlist Push offers is to connect your music to its community of over 4,000 verified playlists. Using the knowledge they've built up over 7+ years doing this, the support team at Playlist Push are actively on hand with the knowledge to help you do your best with their product as possible. So yeah, if you're looking for some help reaching more listeners with your tracks on Spotify, then consider going and checking out what Playlist Push might be able to offer you. And use that link below to get 15% off your first campaign.
I feel that my phone ruins me as an artist, and also just I'm so overstimulated all the time. And I think we're all born with such incredible minds and brains, and if we were just allowed to develop those without being indoctrinated with just everyone's ideas all the time and everyone's points of views, and I'm always handling what the world thinks of everything 24/7 and what's happening everywhere in the world all the time, and it's really hard.
Another symmetry that I found in these interviews with FKA twigs that I didn't expect at all is how she talks about rediscovering or discovering in her 30s a love for techno music.
Ideas are really incredible when they're strong and when they're different, when they're individual. So I think just following the feeling, and obviously I made a whole album about a feeling called Eusexua now, and that was made from following the way something made me feel instead of the perception that I had, which was techno music.
We're just going to listen to FKA talk about this because, as I say, it reflects how I felt about it too. But to take you into that, this channel is very much not about my music, and I'm not here to promote my music. My music in its current form is a pure hobby and just something that I enjoy as part of my creative practice. But I am going to take you into the clip here by playing you a snippet from a track that I made a little while ago now, but it is almost exactly mirroring, I think, a little bit what FKA twigs is talking about, and it's about what I find in those collective, mostly techno music spaces, and what was drawing me to go to those spaces, especially for that period after COVID. Enjoying the music if you wanted, and the music was loud, even upstairs in the pissy dark toilets with the groups filing in and out. And maybe it's a little bit strange, but I like to get into the dense crowd where there isn't space to dance really. Everyone just has to kind of move the same, and the music has no melody to speak of. It just hits as hard as it possibly can with every kick. And I wonder sometimes if the physicality of that space is something like the womb, or maybe getting rolled over by it, giving yourself up is a little bit like death. Anyway, that's
you are listening to Enjoy Voice.
Because the best thing is, you can't think, that's why I love it. 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 You can't think. Don't worry, it's not that deep. You worry yourself foolishly. Don't worry, it can make you shy. I hold hope for your ecstatic afterlife.
But I arrived in this room and everybody was there purely to be together culturally in that moment, to let something go or to bring something in or discover something new, and it was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's so refreshing to hear that that's still possible, because ultimately I really do relate to what you're talking about. I mean, it's a cocktail of the music, the environment, the people that are around. There's a social element, but the focus is the music or the creativity. Is that fair?
Totally, yeah, the focus, although everybody was there together and we all needed each other in that moment, it felt like the impetus was coming from being totally in your own awareness in the most beautiful way, like just like no judgment on other people or yourself. I mean, I understand that I do sound like a self-help book right now, and I keep on specifically through these interviews trying to find ways to describe it that don't sound that way, but it's really hard in society right now just to find a moment to stop just the noise, the scrolling, the chatter, the images. You know, we go out and you're just completely bombarded with adverts and flashing lights, and if you're not looking at your phone, you find yourself looking over someone's shoulder at their phone on the tube or whatever, you know. I mean, I do. I'm like, right, I'm not going to go on my phone. Then I sit next to someone there on their phone. I think, oh, you lol, like a cat holding a balloon. That's funny, you know. And it's just like this constant. I think it's called like popcorn brain. Just these like, it's like images and the most serious political movement in the whole world flipping to like a dog eating a bit of cheese with a mustache on, you know. And it's just like this constant overstimulation, and you know, I've always thought, I mean, everyone's brains are weird, but I've always thought my brain is like weird, and I've always quite liked it that way. And I felt over the past 5 years that I just started to lose a side of myself.
So moving into the back end of the video now, and I wanted to touch on this kind of overarching and I think currently quite amorphous, you might say, term of AI at the moment and how it's affecting artists and creatives. Again, I want to give a big call out to people, anyone who's had an experience around AI affecting their work or just how they feel towards their work, and also people who are maybe stepping into having a relationship with AI in a positive way in terms of their creative work. I think for me at the moment, I kind of block out ideas around AI. As I say that, I think that term's quite amorphous really, but I kind of block out thinking about that. And I'm kind of okay with that at the moment, because as a consumer of art and music myself, I know that all my personal peak experiences with that stuff and how I use that stuff, I'm going into it for a connection, a human connection. But as I say, that's just my approach. And I don't think it's really the artist's job to discount things that are obviously coming through, that are really powerful and interesting and affecting society. Just as it's the artist's job to lead the way in recognizing that we don't have to give ourselves over to certain technology and distractions that sometimes can feel like it's inevitable that culture's leading into those things, the artist can say, no, actually, you don't have to. So it's also the artist's job to be open enough and non-dogmatic enough to explore what is new and to be open enough to recognize possibilities that may lay within it.
I guess at the end of the day, as long as it comes out with something people want to hear, yes, I feel like there is an argument to be made on behalf of that process. However, the real issue, the real problem is that the 15 artists, songs, creators, writers, whoever's work that AI model gets trained on, they're pretty much at this point are little to no rules, regulations, expectations in terms of those people being paid.
In terms of artists, I don't know in terms of like the world and the powers that be and what they're going to use it for, but in terms of art, we can tell when something has had AI involved in it, and it feels a bit icky when you can tell that AI has led the story, but when humanity and when emotion has led the story and it's used as a tool, it's incredible. I mean, I've seen some amazing videos and experimentations using AI, and I'm like, wow, this is so amazing, because it means that we can all create things at such a high level of production value. I think it's more just about the rules and regulations around AI that are slightly unclear, because it's how we started with the internet, without a lot of rules or regulations, so that has gone pretty badly, and I hope that we can learn from that and put those things in place before it's just completely common for everybody to do what they want with it. But we're already obviously starting to see some worrying things. You know, it's hard to tell what's real or what's not, but then that surely drives us back to humanity. I know that I just crave being around people and talking, and being present, and I'm really aware of myself when I'm around people and I'm looking at my phone or I'm engrossed in something into my screen. I feel now that I'm being, it feels like bad manners, and it feels like like a low energetic frequency, and it feels now for me like being on my phone and being addicted to different apps is like the equivalent of eating really bad fast food. But everyone can see me doing it, and I feel embarrassed, and I'm okay with that, because I want to be perceived as someone who is present and who is living in the actual like space. So yeah, I think I mean, listen, we just got to be positive. I think it's going to be okay. It's down to us, really. It's down to us.
I mean, I feel like if you're a creative person, regardless of what the paradigm is thrown in front of you, you'll find your way to work through it. I think like the real sort of like hardest obstacles that are put in front of artists these days are again, time and resources, you know, because I feel like everybody generally has found ourselves in a place between the internet and work and cost of living and so on and so forth, where there's not as much time.
As I say, on this channel I don't touch on AI that much, because I don't know enough about it, and for me it is still quite amorphous, but I really do hope that for anyone in this community who does have an opinion or experience with how it's affecting their work, positively or negatively, the comments below will hopefully be a useful place that there can be a conversation within the Creative Minds audience around how AI is affecting people. as promised, I now want to look at something like the opposite of all this discussion on AI, which is the direct conversations that I'm having with artists and creatives from this community. So here's a little supercut of some of my favorite moments, some of my favorite clips so far from those conversations. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. And if you do enjoy, this is a preview to the full conversations that drop on the newsletter. And also I would recommend going and checking out the Creative Minds podcast if you haven't yet, where again you get those full length conversations with these artists and creatives, conversations that I personally have been enjoying so much.
I had gotten to a place where the music has been the all-consuming aspect of my life for a long time now. Like I started making records when I was around 18, and then eventually, when I moved to the US, spent more time on the Pro Tools, learning how to edit, how to write better, how to so on and so on. And like I said, at first, it starts with wanting to free what's in here, but then there's a career I'm trying to build. There are things I'm trying to do, and then I'm spending so much time trying to get good at this, trying to navigate what comes with it, that it eats at social life. It eats at relationship with self. It eats at, so this thing that was a means of expression eventually starts going into diminishing returns territory, where it's like outside of it, everything else is so fragile and abstract. And, and there's always the reason of, well, it's worth it for the payoff. Well, it's worth it for when it gets to so on and so on. But it's a lot of living that needs to happen to feed the stuff that's no longer happening and that I wasn't even realizing. And in the past 2 years, one of the big shifts is that I've been trying to get back to being in community with folks, and to also create a space for the person outside of the artist, because I realized that I was feeding so much to the artist that I was starving the person.
And you know what I wanted to talk to you about actually is and it might be a bit of a dud question, but there's an artist, quite a few of my friends at the moment in the last 18 months have started having kids. And there's an artist who I listen to, an artist called Loyal Kana, who I featured a little bit, and one thing I like about him is he's a young-ish man, and he writes about fatherhood, and he's mostly hip-hop artist, I guess, and he writes about fatherhood, and it just sticks out, and it's like, it's strange that sticks out, but when you think about a lot of genres of music, and I think it leads into a bit of an artistic myth around artists having to be soloists basically in life.
Right, yeah.
And I don't like that. I think, I think engaging in life and getting messy is the way. They're the people I want to talk to. Everyone has their own journey. I haven't got kids, but
yeah.
As someone who is a father and who is a songwriter and an artist, we might come on to talk a little bit about how you balance your time afterwards. But just in terms of the art,
right.
How did that change the way you approach your art, or did it change the subject matter, or what's coming out, or anything like that?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me having kids is like a big motivation. The motivation to like do something. I've lived most of my life not having kids, and the amount of songs that I've recorded before having kids, I can count on like one hand or two hands at most. So after doing that, I've, probably doubled that after having kids. My oldest is 5 years old. So in the past 5 years, I've doubled the number of songs that I've had recorded. And it's not because I feel the need to I already provide for my family with my day job. My art doesn't need to provide my family. But I want to show my kids that there's more to life than just clocking into a job, clocking out, going to the pub, grabbing some drinks with friends, going home, repeating the cycle, or, if you ever have a family, clocking in at work, clocking out, go with time with your family, you know, do the chores, go to sleep. There's more to life than that. You know, and hobbies and art are such an important piece of what it means to be human.
A huge thanks to the artists and creatives there, and links to all those featured are down there in the description if that small clip has already got you excited and wanting to go and check them out. Okay, with that said, I want to wrap up here. As always, the links to the interviews will be below, the ones that I've used for the source material, and please do go and explore that. I hope that these videos are just a jumping off point for more interesting stuff for people here to explore and watch on their own. Thanks to the people who support this work. As always, I appreciate it, and I hope that anyone who supports the work on Substack or on Patreon recognizes that that money goes to helping me create these videos for everyone who gets value from them. So thanks for that. And yeah, with that said, there's a couple more recent videos that I'm putting on the screen now if you want to go check those out. And yeah, I'll speak to you next week. And yeah, good luck in your work.